Karen from Essential Feeling, and today we're looking at a day-by-day recovery of someone who's had 2 litres of fat removed with Vaser liposuction and then the manual lymphatic drainage every day following that surgery. So without further ado, the patient came in before their surgery and had some lymphatic drainage, 2 lymphatic drainage sessions before surgery. What that means is that when the surgeon goes in to make the cuts for the cannulas to go in, that there's less fluid under the surface of the skin, which means at that point then that the incision wound is a lot cleaner. But it also means that you detoxified before you go in. So your body is running at optimal, which means then that when you go into your recovery phase, your body's not trying to process a lot of toxins that have been hanging around from before you went into surgery. So it's more able to cope with the actual surgery itself. Now, you'll see the before pictures here. This is what the patient looked like before they went in. And now we go into the day of surgery. Now, bearing in mind, this patient had those 2 sessions before surgery. You can see there's minimal leaking. This is the day of surgery. So you can see there's still fluid around the hip area that's left in. You can see that the skin is very rumpled from the garment, but the leaking beyond those 2 patches at the back there is really minimal. It is already healing. And that is because this patient had a lot of work done before they went in with the lymphatic drainage. So like we said, the body's now running optimally. You can see some bruisings already starting to come out, but this patient was actually taking arnica as well beforehand, and then obviously afterwards as well. Now, this is the first day post-surgery. This is after lymphatic drainage. You can see after lymphatic drainage, look at how smooth that skin tone is already. The leaking's completely stopped. That's not normal for everybody, but in this case, obviously, like we said, this patient's had the couple of treatments before they've gone in for surgery, and so it has made a difference. So already things are starting to settle down a lot. Day 2 post-surgery, after lymphatic drainage, if you look at these ellipses, these blue ellipses on the right-hand side around the waistline, you can see, particularly up towards the top by the arms, how much smoother that contour is 1 hour after an hour's lymphatic drainage. So we're not going in with deep work, we're doing really light surface level stretching of the skin so that the lymphatic fluid knows where it's going. There's no leaking in those patches on the right-hand side after the session because we're not pushing it through the holes. We're doing it in such a way that the system understands what's happening, and it can process that fluid internally whilst making a difference to the contour, which is what we see visually as the effects of the lymphatic drainage. You might also be able to see here as well that the protrusion of the belly is a lot less. If you look at the difference between the one on the right to the left, there's a lot less overhang there, and that again is just like after an hour's manual lymphatic drainage, really gentle. So now a week on, you can see again with daily lymphatic drainage just how those hip areas are going down. It's not that they're not swollen anymore, but they're not as swollen. The body's coping with everything that needs to be done. The incision wounds are already dry. At this point, there's no need for any dressings or anything. Everything's actually dry, healing nicely, moving forward. The body can cope with the duress that it's been under. Now, a little bit later on, we're looking at fibrosis on the stomach. So you can see here on the left, the skin's quite a sallow colour. The blood isn't, and it's the blood that heals you. So the blood isn't flowing through as much as we'd like. Compared to the session, after that exact same session, you can see the skin's a lot more pink, the blood flow's getting going. And so, yeah, that is making a difference to how fast the patient will heal. But also it's going to make a difference to how they can move around. Because when you start getting with fibrosis, your range of motion starts changing. That becomes uncomfortable. It feels like everything's ripping. And so at this point, this is where the manual therapies really come in and make a difference. So 1 month post-surgery, after 2 litres reduction, you can see the difference in the shape of this patient. You can really see that shape is so much more streamlined. And bearing in mind that 1 month after surgery, this hasn't stopped healing. There's still swelling around the hip area. But you can see where that patient is going to end up at the end of like the 6 months when the body has finished its entire healing process. So, yeah. Again, you can see the differences. Two months post-op, again, massive difference. Massive difference. So this is just after the compression garment has stopped being worn. 2 litres out of you doesn't sound like a lot, but it really does make a huge difference to how your clothes look on you and how confident this patient feels about themselves, but also how smooth the skin is. And then here you can see that we're starting RF therapy. So this is the first session that we've done RF therapy. Now, a good indicator that you have loose skin, sagging skin, is when you see on the left picture, the stomach, the area like that tummy button, it's elongated. After one session of radio frequency therapy on the right, it's more of the normal shape that you'd expect. That's because that skin's tightened. So much smoother. The contouring on the back is a lot tighter. That rumpling that you can see on the left 1 hour later, completely different. So this is the end result after 2 months of regular radio frequency skin tightening treatments, 5 months total post-op after having 2 litres removed by liposuction. You can see there the difference in in this patient. It's actually quite remarkable. So whilst you may go in for surgery and your surgeon may well say to you, yeah, I've taken 2 litres, and you're like, oh wow, that's not a lot. You don't really see the difference on the scales, especially because you've got this fluid that's weighing you down. It does make a difference. So just bear with it, give it time, and you will reap the rewards.